A Nascent Kaleidoscope. Chapter 101. I walked up to Junior's club, something that had become almost a habit at this point. Honestly, I think I spent more time here than any other building since arriving in this world. I was about to go towards the doors, but a large man standing to the side stepped in front of me. I blinked for a moment before looking up at him. "Excuse me." He didn't respond, crossing his arms, clearly set on preventing me from going inside. Roman is expecting me?" I offered. "Wilhelm." Again, he didn't react, and it was hard to gauge his reaction. "Well, I guess I'm going through you then." "He's cool." Another voice snuck up behind me as I noticed Miltia walking over. "Junior knows him," she said, and the big guy just nodded, stepping to the side. She walked past me, going inside. "Hey, Miltia, how you doing?" I caught the door before it could close, walking inside. There were no other people visible, almost deathly silent. Annoyed and tired, she scowled, walking up to the bar. "Not much sleep." I took the same seat I had sat at before multiple times. It was supposed to be my day off. She scoffed, crossing her arms as she made her way behind the counter. Junior calls me in, offers triple my rate, doesn't tell me what's going on, so I throw on whatever I had and come running, and I look like a complete mess. Well, she didn't look like a mess, but she clearly didn't put as much effort into her dress compared to the last time we met. "But you look good." I offered a compliment. She was wearing just normal jeans and a hoodie with her hair in a loose ponytail. "You're such a dork." She rolled her eyes, a small smile forming on her face. "I don't always dress up like a peacock, you know. I assumed it was mostly for your job." I replied, "Wouldn't say it looked bad, but you clearly were trying to grab attention in a crowded building. You can do casual just as well as dressed up." Just because I wasn't interested in her romantically didn't mean I wasn't aware of her appeal. She huffed, crossing her arms. It seems her default reaction to compliments was to feign annoyance. "You were serious about before. What about being friend?" "Why wouldn't I be? Most guys that say stuff like that are trying to get in my pants." She eyed me skeptically. I am upfront about any of my romantic intentions. Probably wasn't a good idea to mention that I had 3 girls in my life right now, and possibly a 4th in the future. She snorted. "My job is to do rounds in a club, get guys to spend a bit more lean in hopes of me taking them upstairs." She started rummaging for stuff under the bar, setting supplies on the counter. "I'm not a whore, but I do decide to spend a night with a guy every now and then. Are you trying to scare me away?" I raised an eyebrow. She shrugged. "Most people don't like to hang around people like me." He took a few bottles out, mixing them with a decent amount of skill, though nowhere near the level of Junior. She poured me a glass, pushing it towards me. I picked it up, taking a sip. "My mother was a prostitute," I stated, enjoying the taste. "I'm not going to think you're icky because you like to have sex with someone who catches your interest." She just blinked at my statement, staring down at her drink before taking a large gulp. "You're annoyingly nice." She ran the tip of her finger around the mouth of her glass. "It's not just looking pretty. Me and Melanie also work as bouncers, making sure no guys get too frisky, or no one starts slipping anything in any drinks." She seemed to open up a little bit. "The occasional aura user comes make trouble too, so me and Mel handle those idiots." "I should stop by some night," I offered. "What, you want to come hang out? Dance, maybe talk about boys with me?" She said sarcastically, but it lacked any kind of venom in her tone. It seemed like it was one of her default reactions. "Sure, I'll be your wingman if you want." I smirked. She looked a little amused by my comment, probably about to say something until the front doors burst open, a familiar orange-haired man walking in. "Kid, you made it!" he exclaimed. Trailing a little behind him, a woman casual strode inside as well. She had an eye-catching hair color, half brown and half pink, yet it seemingly worked quite well on her. She was rather short, even with the heels she wore, and a parasol in her hand. "Let me introduce you to my partner in crime, Neapolitan, or just Neo for short." His partner gave a little wave. "She doesn't speak," he added. "Like the ice cream?" I raised an eyebrow. The little girl smirked, and the area around her shattered, disappearing. I blinked for a moment, gripping my drink tightly, right as another hand reached for it. The seat next to me shattered like glass, the girl appearing, trying to steal my drink from me. "Ha, good instincts," Roman commented, earning a pout from his partner. "Shorty." Miltia just scowled. Neo turned to her, gestured with her hands, and Miltia looked pale, turning away with a huff. "Well." Roman approached, leaning against the counter. "She hasn't stabbed you. That's always a good sign." I eyed Neo, who blinked innocently. "If you're done drinking all my alcohol, we have a job to discuss." Junior's voice carried over the area, standing at the doorway into his back room. "All right, front and center, kiddo. Time to put your big boy pants on. You're about to hit the big times." Roman slapped my back as he went to the back, Neo giving me a wink as she skipped behind. "Technically, I haven't even done the small-time stuff yet." "Well, that was interesting." "Be careful with Neo. She's a lot stronger than she looks." Meltia scowled. "Don't believe her innocent little girl act." "Little girl? With those hips, she's definitely a woman." Meltia stopped for a moment, looking at me in surprise. "What?" I asked her in confusion. Her lips curled up slightly. "Didn't expect something like that from such a dork." "What? Didn't expect me to admire the view?" I raised an eyebrow. She shrugged. "You came off as the goody two-shoes type. Didn't know your brain could even think like that." "Wow, do I really give off that vibe?" I was honestly surprised. She let out a laugh. "Come on, choir boy, Junior's waiting." "All right, ladies and gentlemen." Roman clapped his hands, grabbing everyone's attention. I looked around the room. It was me, Roman, Junior, Melanie, Meltia, and Neo all sitting around a whiteboard. "The name of the game is robbery." He swept his gaze around. "Anyone who doesn't want to be involved, get the fuck out now." No one moved, but Melanie made a noise to draw attention. "Who is he and why is he here?" She gestured to me. "Actually, that's a good question." I agreed, much to Melanie's bemusement. "All right, that's fair." Roman nodded. "Kid here is a distraction. Honestly, anyone could fill his role, but it's hard to find someone with his specialty." "Punchable face," Meltia offered. Roman smirked, snapping his fingers. "Right you are." Yeah. I rolled my eyes. "Can you explain properly?" "Buzzkill." Roman moved on easily enough. "All right, so Kid here is going to be our patsy to draw attention in the Mistral tournament coming up. We're going to rig the thing up until the top 16, giving him a free win each time. I chose him because he looks about the right age and within arm's reach. I had blackmail, and he seems smart enough not to fuck it up, which admittedly is a low bar that many of our minions can't seem to clear. That's going to be a lot of attention on him." Junior noted. "I hope I'm paying for more than just some spectacle." "Ah, was Junior bankrolling this heist?" "That's part of the plan, and where I need you lot to come in." "See, you all are going to promote him." Junior looked unamused. "What?" "Promote him, put up flyers, tell everyone about the kid who came from your club that's going to compete." Roman flourished his hands for added effect. "Why?" Junior asked. "We need Lil Miss Malachite's spies to notice and give the boss lady time to contemplate." Roman explained. "Mother." Meltia looked confused. "Wait, Mother. You want to fuck with their mom?" I interjected. "Oh, we're doing a job that's going to piss off that woman." Melanie picked at her nails. She tried to look uninterested, but the look in her eyes betrayed that. Not the reaction I expected with their mother came up, but I can't exactly toss stones from my glass house over here. "Righto, stop skipping ahead." Roman gave me a look. "So, Malachite Sr. still has spies around to watch us. Obviously they can't really do anything in your turf, Junior." Junior just grunted, and I realized that he was probably the boss around these parts and not merely an information broker. As I was saying, Roman continued, "Promote him enough to grab her attention. She'll be focused on why you," he pointed towards Junior, "would bother with a nobody like him." He then pointed towards me. "Of course she's going to investigate, since her spies will no doubt report it to her that I've been walking in and out of here a lot more recently." "So, you want Mother's eyes on you, why?" Melita asked. "I'm glad you asked." He snapped his fingers, pointing towards the whiteboard. "Neo, do your thing." The area around the board shattered and was replaced with pictures and such all over. His cane slapped at the top corner. "The kid is going to give a signal, one that would force the spider bitch to act." At that time, We're hitting her two biggest stashes while all her people try to grab the one who pushed her face in the mud for the whole world to see. She would be forced to act to save face. You know Mother's stashes? Melanie stood up, clear surprise on her face. Roman took out a cigar, lighting it up with a smirk. Honey, who do you think I am? Where do we come in? Melanie asked, clearly still excited at the prospect. Muscle, Roman said bluntly. Believe me when I say, this is going to be a hot exit. Malachite Sr. holds half of Mistral by the balls. You better believe she'll ground all outgoing bullheads to stop us. I need you both to keep our getaway clean of pests. Fine. Melanie sat back down. My cut better be worth it. How far away is the bullhead from the stashes? I asked, earning everyone's attention. Good question, kid. Roman nodded in approval. The answer is too damn far. How long can she ground all the bullheads? Roman looked thoughtful. A couple hours, give or take. Wouldn't it be better to just go to ground for a bit? Wait for her hull to wane? Even if the authorities are in her pocket, they can't keep inter-kingdom flights grounded too long. Wouldn't that open up issues with other kingdoms to make comments? I wasn't too aware of inter-kingdom politics, but it seemed unwise for Mistral's government to get any kind of flack due to her personal issues on an international scale. Me and Neo would be fine. The sisters would be fine too. But you'll be all alone, kid. Can she even touch me while the tournament is going on? Very unlikely. Too many cameras, and the government would come down on her hard for such an overt move on her part. Hell, if the tournament is seen as unsafe by other kingdoms. Roman just laughed at the thought, and I could fill in the gaps. There you have it. Just let me have a go. Worst case, I'm fucked, and you can get out of there without me. I mean, the absolute worst case. I could always just portal back to Vale, but I didn't want to really reveal that at the moment. Roman gave me an appraising look. You got balls, kid, I'll give you that. He chuckled. All right, if you want to play it like that, it's your ass. He shook his head. All right, the big picture is painted. Time to settle the details. Chapter 102. Right now turn to your left. Roman held a camera, snapping pictures. Like this? I asked. Good, the ladies will love this. Now why don't you give a little pout? Wait, what? Why don't we try something else? Roman tapped his cheek. Actually, let's lose the shirt. You're fucking with me. I deadpanned. Roman snorted, laughter escaping his lips. I looked around to see Junior cracking a smile and Miltia with her sister giggling. What? Me? Why, the insinuation leaves me. Yeah, fuck off. I walked over to the bar, hopping into my seat. How long ago was he finished? I asked. About 2 hours. Miltia answered. What? We've barely been here for that long. Roman is a surprisingly good photographer. His first couple shots turned out great. The people printing the posters should have the first stack done any time. Dick! I shouted towards Roman. He of course responded with a cheeky smile and wave. Got my people working the online angle too. Junior cleaning one of his glasses, still clearly amused. By the end of the day, half the city will know your name and face. Walter Howard Schweintorg, the name will be on everyone's lips. Oh, fuck off, you know what my name is. I rolled my eyes, much to his laughter. What happened to Neo? I looked around the room. Shorty went to grab some stuff. Melanie replied, filing her nails. She said, wrote something about you needing a proper weapon. I paused, staring up as the air cracked and shattered, Neo presenting herself with flair, holding something in her hands. There was a pregnant silence that took over the whole room, everyone staring at what Neo had brought in. I feel attacked right now. At that, nearly everyone broke down laughing as Neo wiggled the giant purple dildo, presumably what was supposed to be my weapon. It even had a giant handle sticking out, so you could wield it with 2 hands. You know what? I'm going to shout during every match that Roman Torchwick is my sponsor as I wave that giant-ass dildo around. Neo silently laughed as she set it on the counter, pulling up a seat. All right, kid. Don't get your panties in a twist. Roman lit his signature cigar, turning towards Neo. How's the stuff coming? Neo started gesturing with her hands, huffing a little, then rolled her eyes. Unfortunate, but quality takes time. Roman replied, seemingly able to understand her. He turned towards Junior. Looks like your guys are already putting up the posters around town. What about the stuff? Junior said with the subtlety of a bulldozer. Atlas military-grade dust bombs. Roman smirked. Got them on the way. Should be arriving in the next couple days. Junior grunted. This better be worth it. I'm dropping a lot of lean to fund this job of yours. He shook his head. Not to mention all the hardware upgrades I'm giving to my boys to keep the spider bitch out of the city once everything settles. Even if we only hit one stash house, it would be more than worth it. Roman stated. I saw her books once. Think 10 years of profits all nicely stocked away for a rainy day. Junior grunted a non-committal answer. At least we can keep going with the bets. Even if we didn't make any money, would be best to keep doing it. Charades and all that. Roman nodded. Ugh, this is boring. I'm gonna go shopping. Miltia stood up, ignoring the conversation Roman and Junior were having. Want some company? I asked, thinking of stepping away myself. This part didn't really concern me. Whatever, she said immediately, but the smallest amount of a smile appeared on her face. What about this one? Miltia held up a tank top. Color good, design is meh. I shook my head. Catching out of the corner of my eye, a kid probably around Kunu's age was pointing to me excitedly and then pointing at a nearby poster. I gave him a little wave, much to his amusement. Junior's men work fast. I had seen dozens of posters up already, as well as several more walking around. Their uniforms were pretty easy to spot in a crowd. I think I may have underestimated how popular this tournament was. I turned back to the rack of clothes. What about this? I pulled another shirt off the rack, holding it up to her. Really? She raised an eyebrow. The asymmetry works well on you. It complements your hair, and the color matches your eyes. I scrunched my nose, thinking it over. Would go well with pretty much any kind of jeans. Those shoes are an issue. She grabbed it, holding it up to herself as she eyed a mirror a few feet away. It really does. She seemed surprised. It's weird how you're good at this. At looking good. I raised an eyebrow. Have you seen me? I waved my hands, gesturing to my clothes for added effect. She let out a small little snort, her lips curling up. You really do take after Roman. I choose to take that as a compliment. It wasn't. Too late. I have taken your words as praise. Brothers, you're insufferable just like him. Stop, my ego can only get so big. She scoffed, crossing her arms before reaching for another article of clothing. What about this blue one? Nah, red is definitely your color, matches your complexion more. I shook my head. But you already knew that. Wanted a boy's perspective. She shrugged, putting it back. Anything you want to do after this? I got nothing particular I'm keen on doing. I thought it over. Can always do lunch or something after. I know a good sushi place nearby. She mumbled. You do know that the tournament is only like a week away, right? Yeah, I was there for the meeting. I rolled my eyes. No, you idiot. I mean you're going to be fighting some of Remnant's best for the age group. You've only had your aura for like a week, and you don't even have a weapon. Huh, was she holding this in for a while? I couldn't help but smile at her worried expression. I'm acting like this because I have confidence in myself. She just scowled again. There's a big difference between the thugs running around with aura and the ones being trained in schools. I have a weapon, and I have been heavily trained. Just because I didn't have aura before doesn't mean I'm weak. I calmly replied, whatever. She didn't seem to believe me, but she dropped it. Just don't get caught and die or something. I don't. She was particularly used to having conversations like this. And it's not like I won't be preparing. I stated I was going to go over the rule book and maybe procure some stuff to take with me. I saw that dust came in a larger crystallized form opposed to the grounded variety I had on me. More expensive, but it should be much more power. It gave me many ideas. Well, we turned to walk towards the register when a familiar pair of bunny ears caught my attention. Come on, Val, this would be cute on you. A girl with a peculiar style was talking with the bunny. Why she was wearing sunglasses indoors, I couldn't say. Reminded me of that edgy kid back in my birth world. Coco. I can't. That barely covers my chest. Girl, you need to show off your assets. Her head turned, staring at me. This will be cute, right? The aforementioned Coco seemed to hold up the shirt for me to see. Makes her boobs look nice and perky, right? Coco. Velvet turned a bright shade of red. Maybe if she wants to turn tricks on the corner. Miltia interjected. Coco went silent, staring at my companion. Of course, you would know all about that. Coco harumphed. Almost didn't recognize you without that hideous thing you call a dress on. At least I'm noticeable. You look like an extra in a D-list action movie. Noticeable like a clown at a birthday party. I picked up the distaste Miltia had for this girl almost immediately. No idea what was going on between them, but sides were easy to choose, so I spoke up. Really? The girl wearing a beret is going to throw shade? Coco's head snapped to me, eyeing me up and down. A vest and tie? What century is this supposed to be? My grandfather wore something like that when I visited him last week. It's called style. Maybe you should ask him for advice. I countered. Style? Do you have any idea how hard it was to find an outfit that looks good with a beret? She pulled on her shirt for added effect. It must be pretty hard if you still haven't found one. I continued. You look like you're trying to tell the world you aren't a conformist, yet thrive on all the attention they give you. The only way you could look any more original is if you wore sunglasses indoors. Oh, wait. Her mouth gaped, her sunglasses sliding down her nose. I adjusted my tie and straightened my collar, turning my nose up at her before leaving, Miltia following behind me. Miltia started to giggle almost uncontrollably. Hate that bitch. She managed to get out between laughs. Came into the club a few times and just starts trash talking everyone's clothes. Thinks because her parents are rich, and she spends her money to buy boutiques and fashion stores that she's better than everyone. Well, that answers that question. Met her friend before. Nice girl, bit of a pushover though. The bunny faunus? Miltia asked. MMM. She was a waiter at a nice cafe I visited. Though I probably shouldn't go back there. What happened? Beat up some idiots. Stole their wallets. That was a fun morning. Miltia just blinked before laughing again. Oh, I just had a thought. I stopped my steps. Would you happen to know somewhere to make scabbards? If I didn't want to show off my storage ring, I would need to carry Mirage on me, and my favorite sword deserves a good home. Chapter 103. This is the third one. Miltia lead more towards another store. She was getting, not annoyed, but not really happy, I suppose. But she was happily swinging another new bag in her hand. Some kind of oil for keeping her claws nice and clean. She utilizes a type of claws in combat, interesting in of itself. The shop looked a bit older than the others, not unkept, but definitely had seen a lot of years. We walked in, greeted by the sound of a bell atop the door to alert the owner to customers. The man behind the counter was an older gentleman, but he gave a genuine smile when we walked in. What can I do for you youngsters? He needs a sheath for his imaginary sword. Miltia chimed in, still not believing me. Half of what she said is true. I added, do you make customized orders? He sat up from his stool behind the counter, stretching his back a little. It's been a while since I've had someone wanting me to make a design from scratch. He chuckled. Kids these days with their mecha shift. Weapons don't seem to appreciate the basics. I can see the utility, but I'm satisfied with just a sword. I nodded. I wasn't too sold on the mecha shift weapons these people usually used, but I could understand where the idea came from and why it was so popularized. It simply wasn't my cup of tea. As a curiosity, I wouldn't mind having one created, but I couldn't see utilizing it any a true fight. Well, I have some old works I did. See if anything catches your eye. He slowly bent down, pulling a few items from under the counter. Everything he set on the table weren't all scabbards. There were combat boots, bags, and other items that one may take into combat in the wilds. But it was a good idea to see his particular skills and style he predominantly used. Oh! I exclaimed. This color is perfect. Matches the hilt. I held out a scabbard he set on the table, made for a sword much wider than my own. What about engravings? I may be old, but my hands are still steady enough to decorate it how you want. He smiled. What do you think? I held it up for Miltia to see. Hard to judge without a sword. She rolled her eyes. Fine, fine. I might as well show her. Just keep it a secret for now. What are? I flipped my hand over, allowing Mirage to appear in my hand. Miltia just stared at me for a moment, blinking in confusion. What a beautiful weapon. The old man stated. Think you can do something with this? I would be overjoyed. He nodded enthusiastically. You already discovered your semblance. Miltia practically shout out. I pursed my lips. Toot toot, no faith in me. Not really, but I didn't want to reveal all my secrets just yet. Well, maybe you won't get your ass handed to you so badly now. She crossed her arms with a huff. I ignored her, turning to the shopkeep. Think you can have this done in a few days? I needed to be ready for the Mistral tournament. You're going to compete? He raised an eyebrow. You're looking at the next champion. I waved my arms for emphasis. That one lass is fairly good. What was her name again? The old man lightly replied as I set my sword down to allow him to get measurements. The invincible girl. Miltia added air quotes with a small scowl. That's the one. She's won almost all her matches in the past with relative ease. Should be fun. I smiled. Whatever. Not me who's going to be humiliated in front of all of Remnant. Miltia said, Truly, your support gives me the confidence to win. I drawled. Regardless, I'll need to take a few more measurements. The old man chimed in. I can have this made in a couple days if all goes well. Cutting it close. Miltia crossed her arms. The tournament is only a few days away, and we have to get you there early to register and all that. To see one of my creations on a stage like that, these old hands will get the job done in time. I can't wait. I hadn't particularly needed a sheath previously, but I didn't want to be taking my sword out of my ring every time I needed it. And carrying a weapon open like that would just be rude, not to mention it would make me look so tasteless. Getting everything set up, me and Miltia finally left the quaint little shop. How are things on your end? Need to get anything ready? It wouldn't be odd for me to assume they needed a lot of supplies for their end as well. Mel should be handling, she paused. Why would I trust her to deal with that? She scowled, talking to herself. Gotta run some errands? She huffed in annoyance. Melanie always waits to the last minute to do anything. I should probably check to make sure we got everything ready. Besides, Junior's footing the bill. All right, it was fun. We should do this again sometime. She turned to me briefly. I didn't hate it, she stated, but from what I knew of her so far, that seemed like praise from her. As she left, I turned and walked in the other direction, finding a secluded area to pull out my scroll. I brought up a map of Remnant. What you doin'? Drake asked. I was thinking about paying a visit to Mistral, since I won't really have time while the tournament is going on. Just wanted to walk around for a bit. Is that a good idea? I just shrugged. It shouldn't be a big deal, so what if people see me then recognize me later at the tournament? Besides, I doubt anyone would care I'm there before the tournament starts and I start grabbing attention. Besides, I would be back in a few hours. No harm, no foul. I already have a calculation stored for this world. It's just a matter of eyeing where I want to end up with a long-range portal like this. Despite what one may think, I don't just will it to open where I want to go. There are a lot of variables to consider if I hadn't already established the place as a go-to by being there before. That's not to say I can't just pop in places I've never been before, but it takes a bit more precision to accurately appear. Well, here we go. I slashed open a portal and walked through. Wow! I couldn't help but blurt out, standing on the side of a cliff, as I overlooked the aforementioned Mistral. It was gorgeous. A large city built into the side of a mountain. The architecture was reminiscent of Eastern designs, but I could also see some Greek and Roman added in. This alone made the trip worth it. I took out my scroll and started snapping pictures. Can't wait to show these off when I go back home. Descending the little cliff I was on, it wasn't particularly difficult to make my way in the city, and boy was it bustling with activity. The place was clearly in celebration mode. Posters everywhere, decorations up and about. I also saw promotions for certain competitors. Guess this would be considered one of those home field advantages. Wow, even the food is similar. I muttered, walking past a ramen stand. It's surprising how much some of the stuff here mirrors a world entirely different from theirs. An infinite universe applied to the greater multiverse. I shrugged. There was the theory that the collective unconscious of humanity permeated beyond just the cluster of Earths that Alea was personified in. Sort of like an unconscious psychic connection that humanity had with its counterparts across dimensions. Whether it was true or not was anyone's guess, but something seemed to connect humanity as a greater whole. Anything that can be imagined is happening somewhere at some time. Pretty much. I nodded. Creation is full of wonderful and unimaginable things. This is mundane by comparison. Not that it wasn't interesting. Ooh. I paused, looking at someone handing out flyers. Can I have one? I walked up to the kid, who looked to be around 17 to 18. We're doing tours from 12 to 3 o'clock. He handed me the paper. Reading it over, I couldn't help but have my lips curl up in a smile. The academy here, Haven Academy, was doing tours, perhaps in an attempt to bring in talent from other kingdoms. I was actually quite interested in one of these supposed huntsman academies. I pulled out my scroll and checked the time. Should have a couple more hours, but I guess I'll head there now and maybe grab a bite to eat afterwards. I spoke quietly to myself, looking up to the peak of a city where I saw the academy towering over everything. The flyer said to just head up and I would be welcomed. It was a nice little walk through the city. The hike up top did briefly give me some flashbacks to the land of shadows and that despicable mountain I climbed, but otherwise, it was still a very beautiful scene. And I wasn't the only person making the little trek. Of course, I could see there were other avenues to approach, a road that winded down the little peak that vehicles were driving down. I even saw a bullhead fly up and land on a platform especially for aircraft. But I chose just to take the stairs, and boy were there a lot of them. Thankfully, I was more than accustomed to something of this level. Frankly, it didn't even match my morning routine. And it was amusing to see all the other guests going up and down. It was quite lively. Right this way, the next tour will begin shorts, if you could all gather in the grand hall. A woman shouted at the entrance of the gate, perhaps a teacher judging by her age. She ushered everyone forwards towards a large building. Great Hall was probably an apt name. It was very grandiose. The whole school was very well designed. The just little peeks I took around the area made for a very flattering picture for the academy as a whole. I followed a few more heads inside, children and adults looking around with wonder. I couldn't help but feel something similar. While I wasn't as in awe due to the nature of the academy, I was more so appreciating the whole thing as an outsider to this world. I walked around a bit, admiring everything until my eyes fell on a large statue that decorated the center of the hall. Something pulled on my attention. I walked over, placing my hand on it, and I felt the faintest feeling of magical energy, which wasn't too strange considering the nature of the dust here, but this thing didn't look like it had any contact with dust. All right, everyone, we're about to begin the next tour. A peppy voice boomed over the building, drawing everyone's attention. I glanced back at the statue and hesitantly wove an illusion over myself, watching everyone file out of the building. You think something is here? Call it instinct, I replied, undoing my little illusion as everyone left. Maybe it's nothing, but a mystery is fun to explore. I put my hand back on the statue, pulsing magical energy into it. No immediate reaction, but I was mildly surprised to find out that the thing was an elevator. Taking another look around, and seeing the place empty, swiped Mirage again, appearing out under the thing in the elevator's shaft as I started to fall a long distance down. My wings unfurled to catch myself, landing quietly at the base near a large lake. The platform I landed on was basically connected to a large rock with big tree growing out of it. I looked up the elevator shaft to see the whole thing surrounded by a large cavern. I must have been way under the city at this point. Fascinating, I mumbled, taking in my surroundings. The magical energy here is much more concentrated. This place gives a strange feeling. Yeah, something is here. I took a step forward on the platform I found myself on. At the other end, there was a strange orange door. The platform underneath me began to light up, illuminating the whole area. I approached the door, and was surprised to see it not connected to anything, merely sitting perfectly on that location. I poked it, prodded it, and nothing happened. Interesting. I tapped my chin. What did you discover? I think this leads to another realm, or another subdimension. The feeling is similar to that dimension lost sacred gear. I hummed. Can't you break into it then? Of course. I just wanted to examine it first. I replied. It's not every day I can inspect subspaces created through magical means. The amount of magical energy rolling off this thing, it was clear where its origin lay. I took out Zelretch's trusty notebook and began to take a few notes, snapping a picture for future reference. The old man would probably find this interesting too. He didn't see any magical sources from his own peaks here. Well, here we go. I placed my hand on the gateway. It didn't seem to want to budge. Arrogant little thing. I muttered. There appeared to be a sort of magical locking mechanism placed, trying to stop me from forcibly activating it. I pulled on the kaleidoscope, overlaying the coordinates for the dimension on top of the door, basically bypassing any seals or locks the creator put on it. Essentially, I used the door as a reference to open a window. Could I have just blown through the locks? Sure, but I didn't know what was on the other side and didn't want to be responsible for any kind of catastrophe. The door began to swirl with the familiar iridescent colors I was used to at this point. I smugly walked through the portal, getting hit by the dry air of a desert, sand basically floating in the air. This is amazing. Drake looked awed by what we saw. An entire desert inside this place. I shared similar thoughts. This would not have been easy to create by the average mage. I couldn't help but admire how thoroughly this subdimension was anchored to the real world. It was not at all breaking apart, nor was it unsteady in the slightest. I am genuinely impressed. The person who made this must have been a genius. This place would easily be able to last for another 1,000 years without any interference. Probably more than that, but it was my conservative guess. Hell, it would probably survive until the end of this planet for good. So, you gonna check that thing out? I stopped my admiring, turning towards the thing he was referring to. There was a stone pedestal off to the side, and a very particular object on top of it, adorned with gold and a glowing blue glass center. Walking over to it, there seemed to be no traps of anything. I suppose the creator of this place assumed no one could get inside without his permission? Looks like a lantern, a lamp of some sort. I touched it gently, only to blink in confusion. This is not a normal magical item. Yeah, no way was this just a mystic code or something similar. What do you think, Drake? Divine, he said simply. You think this thing is divine in origin? I gently placed my hand on it again. Honestly, it doesn't give me that overbearing feeling a divine construct would, but then again, Dawnbreaker is also divine in origin, even it was meant for mortal hands. Perhaps this was similar then? I pulsed my magical energy inside of it and was hit with immediate resistance. Actually, it felt like something looked back at me. I reeled back in surprise as the object began to glow bright. A visible magical phenomenon occurred where magical energy exploded out. A woman appeared, floating above the lamp. Gold chains rattled on her limbs. Blue skin drew my attention. But most importantly, why are you naked? I couldn't help but ask the floating woman. Seemingly ignoring my question, she looked down at me with the most confused face I've ever seen. Who are you? How have I never seen you before? Chapter 104. Isn't it polite to introduce yourself first before demanding someone's name? I looked at this genie incredulously. She just blinked at me in confusion, staring intently as if my face would give away some kind of secret. I am Jinn, spirit of the relic of knowledge. She hovered over the lamp, seemingly regaining her composure as she crossed her legs and crossed her arms over her breasts. Kay! She frowned, as if to expect some other kind of reaction. Who are you? Why can I not see you? She slowly descended, landing in front of me. First name, Bob. Last name, the Builder. I was curious what she meant by not being able to see me, though I had some guesses if she was the spirit of this so-called relic of knowledge. Probably not the best idea to say my name to her before I know what's going on. No, you're not. She rubbed her temples, ignoring what ridiculous name I gave her. You are, Y-U-W, Will. Her eyes began to glow brightly as she stared at me. I could practically taste the magical power flowing around her. You are infinite. Her eyes rolled back, and she went limp. I quickly moved to catch her, her legs wobbly as she seemed to need a moment to regain her focus. Her eyes unglazed, set on me again as her hand hesitantly reached out to cup my cheek. You're real, she whispered as she went to poke my arm and chest. I would hope so. She just giggled to herself as her focus drifted back to me and she calmed down. How did you get here? Well, I was looking for the restroom, and one thing led to another. Here I was. She gave me a deadpanned look. You came to this dimension by accident, she said dryly. Yup. No idea what she's talking about. You're lying, she stated, tilting her head. I'm being lied to, she whispered to herself again, turning back to me. Do it again. Do what? I just blinked in confusion. Lie to me. I'm a giant purple platypus? She let out a cute little giggle. I can't tell if you're speaking the truth or not, I don't know. I am missing context here. I interjected on her little laughing fit. She smiled, turning towards me again. I am Jinn, spirit for the relic of knowledge. I know everything past and present. Every century I can answer 3 questions about anything not pertaining to the future. 2 questions remain. Oh, well, that isn't good. And you are unknown to me. Her face invaded my personal space. There are only 2 individuals that I cannot see, I cannot hear. You are most certainly not one of the brother gods. Welp, looks like you were right, Drake. Knew it. How much you want to bet these gods are responsible for why the world is fucked up? Suckers bet. So, you can hear people's thoughts? She had a form of clairvoyance, I guess, to see everything that's going on in the world. I know everything past and present. And you can't hear my thoughts. Correct. Oh, that's good. Would be awkward otherwise. I don't have to read your thoughts to know what you're thinking. She rolled her eyes, her arms pushing against her breasts for added effect. That's fair. I nodded. They were very nice boobs. I have 2 questions remaining for the century. You may ask your questions. I'm guessing that I have to intend to use said questions. Otherwise they would have been used up already. That is correct. She stated. Are you allowed to just tell me whatever you want? If so, that would be a big loophole. I am not allowed to divulge information unknown to you, other than my purpose and my origin and anything that corresponds to my use. She iterated. That seems mildly exploitable if you were keen to. I pointed out, earning a small smirk from her. But I don't really have any questions that need the use of magic to answer right now. I would think this over a bit, see if anything stuck out. I was not really hung up on any particular issue that needed this method to deliver an answer. I'll see you later. I waved at her, turning around, only for her to block my way. Probably best to not mess around with this thing if I don't need to. You're leaving. A yes? Places to be, people to see. And you aren't taking me? She gestured towards the supposed relic. I hadn't planned on it. Felt weird to take it now. Maybe if it were a weapon or something I would be more enthused, but it's probably useless outside of Remnant. Take me with you, she said sternly. That seems like more trouble than it's worth. I replied. I hesitate to ask why you want to come with me. How long do you think this dimension has existed? How long do you think it has been since another person has found and used me? She asked, clearly getting around the issue of telling me information I wouldn't know. So you're lonely here? I hazarded a guess. I looked at you. She pushed her forehead against mine, staring into my eyes. So many colors. Remnant is just one tiny little speck. My face hardened, realizing what she was talking about. You tried to peek at something you shouldn't have. My eyes narrowed at her. She hesitated for a moment, stepping back. I am Jinn, spirit for the relic of knowledge. I am supposed to know everything. Never before have I not known something unless it was the hands of my creators. Now something like that was dangled in front of me. She sounded excited. What exactly are you trying to say? Take me with you, she reiterated. I think I understood what she wanted. You don't just mean from this place, do you? I don't know what I saw, but there was so much, and I want to know it all. She moved her arms, letting me see her body fully. Anything you want, I'll give it to you, just please take me with you. This is not how I expected today go. I guess she more or less parsed that I'm not from around here, even if she couldn't quite understand what she peeked at. And how she did that in the first place. Some kind of divine magic's woven into her creation, perhaps. I rubbed my temples, forcing myself to look away. Are you going to take her? Drake asked. I'm considering it. Should I remind you not to think with your dick? Honestly, I'm not. I actually have an idea of how she would be useful. My home needs something to hold together the magics to overlay it on multiple world lines. That lamp is holding this dimension together. My guess is that it would work for my needs. And from what she's talking about, I don't think she would mind looking after everything as long as she can continue to learn new things. So, you want her as what, your maid? If she's fine with that? And that's a bit pedantic compared to what I explained. And you don't think there would be any issues in taking her with us? I have no idea what she was created for, what her true purpose is beyond just answering these questions. But she's a sapient creature, a person who expressed her own will. If this is what she wants and she's okay with the terms, I would have a clear conscience in anything that happens afterwards. I turned back towards Jin. You're not abandoning your duty by wanting to come with me? Honestly had no idea what she was intended for, so I was just taking a shot in the dark here. I am only obligated to answer questions when the quota is available for whoever holds the relic, she stated. I rubbed my chin at her words. So as long as I keep your answers at 0, that means no one would ever be able to force something out of you. She smiled brightly at my statement as I paced lightly around the area, thinking this through. Admittedly, she checked quite a few of my boxes. Fuck it. What am I even being hesitant for? I'm a greedy person. I turned my gaze back at her. Once you agree to this, you'll be mine and I don't give up what's mine. I made sure she knew what she was getting into. I already said I would give you everything. She smiled. Take me with you. I want to see everything, know everything out there. Fine. I conceded. I'll have a job for you soon. For now, return to the relic. I'll take it with me. She gave me a smile, quickly placing her lips against my cheek before dissipating and turning into smoke that got swept back up into the lamp. I didn't take it yet, lest this dimension come crashing down on me. I have a thought. Is it about how I just accepted a genie as my employee? No, it's something else. Drake spoke. I remember looking at the book you read, the one about the kingdoms. Yeah. Well, wasn't the symbol of this kingdom a lamp, similarly to this one you just obtained? You don't think? I mean, it could be a coincidence. But then again, it is a divinely created item, hidden under the city of the kingdom that uses it as a symbol. And there was one kingdom whose symbol was a sword. Oh. I took a moment to contemplate what he just said. Well, Drake, I think I should pay a visit to Vacuo. Coincidence, or not, definitely going to check this out. The relic was on the kingdom's flag, under the kingdom's academy. Other kingdoms have objects on their flags as well, each also having a huge academy. Not a big leap in logic. Ah, that was the kingdom's name. Yup. I feel like there are some very educational reasons that I can't care to make up to rationalize stealing that sword. If it exists, that is. Well, guess it's time to pay a visit to the big desert to the west. Well, she did say that she doesn't get visitors, so it's likely this sword, if it does exist, is also sealed away. Wait. She said 3 wishes a century and only 2 remained. That means she was visited within the last century. I rubbed my chin. I don't think she can actually lie, so there appears to be more going on than what I know, but at the same time Jin wouldn't be much help unless I used her questions. The plot thickens. I muttered, pushing away thoughts for now. It really didn't concern me for the moment. I yoinked the relic quickly, opening up a new passage out of the subdimension. My day was far from over yet. Chapter 105. I hate sand. It's coarse, rough, and gets everywhere. You deserve to die for that joke. Hee hee. I looked around at the endless sand dunes. The sun beating down on me, the dry air that pushed against my face. I've been here for like 5 minutes and yet, fuck this place. If there wasn't the possibility of a sword in this for me, I would totally have bailed. Hang on, I'm trying to find a memory of cheese so I can enjoy it with all that wine. I just grumbled, kneeling down and grabbing a handful of sand to add to a baggie, putting it away in my ring. Looking up, I could see the academy on the horizon. It was perhaps the tallest thing on the entire continent. And I knew for a fact I didn't appear too far away. Actually, I wanted to approach from a distance away. Popping up in the middle of a crowded area would probably been a bad idea. A little skip, and I was much closer, actually having to tilt my head up to see the whole thing. The city's walls practically in touching distance. It was an interesting design, a mix between Egyptian and probably Central America. The academy itself was a ziggurat, and instead of a city, it looked like a mobile market that sprang up overnight. While I doubt that conclusion, it looked like instead of an actual city, this place was formed by people settling down all around the academy and just continued to grow in that regard. I guess I couldn't blame them. This was probably the safest place on the continent from what I've read. Understandably, a desert isn't really a place for civilization to thrive. Well, this particular desert was lacking a large source of constant water like the Nile in Egypt. There was almost a straight shot to the academy, like a road that no one dared to block. In fact, as I walked down it, I drew quite a few eyes. None quite hostile, but I could tell I was being watched intently. I paid it no mind, taking my scroll out to start taking pictures. While I did in fact wish to document the sights, I tried my best to seem like an oblivious tourist before ducking out and weaving an illusion over myself and making my way towards the gates. While they were guarded, no one even batted an eye as I walked through, large weapon on my back and combatish clothes. I could only assume there were several hundred students at a minimum. There was no way the guards would recognize every single one. The inside was more minimalistic than Haven Academy over in Mistral. A product of their environment, I could only assume. Even the kids didn't just stand around outside or just do school kid things. Honestly, it seemed like everyone had somewhere to be here, moving with a purpose. But what caught my eye, at the center of this courtyard I walked into a large statue of a sword, similar to the one I saw of Jin at Mistral. Well, I'll be damned. I put a hand on it and felt something very familiar. Ha! Called it. Well done, Drag. I'm deciding dinner tonight. Fine. You definitely earned this. I quickly pulsed mana and got an idea of the structure and ripped open a portal down the elevator shaft. The feeling of my wings coming out was refreshing as always. Oh, it's a bit different. I swept my eyes around my surroundings, landing on a platform reminiscent of the one from Mistral. Except there wasn't a large tree here. Instead, there was this bioluminescence plant everywhere that lit up the cavern. I looked around for a moment more before taking out the relic of knowledge, giving it a little tap. Jen! A moment later, the naked blue woman came out in a swirl of mist, looking down on me. Do you have a question? She asked me happily. No, got something else I wanted your help with. Oh, do you require relief? She looked at me, coquettishly. Yee. Focus. Right. I shook my head. Later, I said, clearing my throat. Actually, thought you may want to be here for this. She hummed, not commenting as she took in her surroundings, clearly recognizing where she was. So, I'm assuming that a sword is on the other side of that door. I pointed towards a dimensional door, just like Jin's. She smirked. Is that a question? She lazily floated towards me. I suppose you can answer. I grumbled. This is going to get annoying. I'm going to have to find a way to overcome that limitation. Her eyes brightened immediately, clearly giving me an approving look. I suppose such a limitation is an annoyance on her as well. I stepped towards the bright orange door at the other end of the platform. The makeup was almost exactly the same. Placing my hand on it, the colors began to swirl and change as I hijacked it for my own purposes. Amazing, Jin commented, looking at what I was going. I guess you're already aware I am capable of magic. I looked towards her. Now that you have confirmed it, I can speak of it freely, she beamed. I'm curious where you learned such a thing. That is a long answer that would need many drinks for me to explain. I waved her off. Let's deal with this first. I offered my hand to her as she took it without a second thought, and we walked through the portal. Immediately, the rush of cold air hit me. What the hells? I spat out, the cold air a stark contrast from the world outside. Jin just hovered nearby, giggling to herself. I didn't dwell on it long, my eyes moving towards a sword on a pedestal nearby. So, am I going to find another naked woman when I touch this one? Would you be disappointed? Jin's eyes twinkled in amusement. I would not be. I came to the conclusion as I glanced at her legs. I didn't hesitate this time. I placed my hand on the sword, and nothing happened. No beautiful sword spirit to tempt me then. Don't sound so disappointed when I'm right here. She cooed, head right next to my ear. All right, time to stop messing around. I gave the sword another thorough look. The blade was almost crystalline in structure, could have even been mistaken for glass, if a different shade of blue than my mirage. It was decorated in gold, following the Relic of Knowledge's color scheme and overall design. Good weight. I gave it a swing. It is amazingly well balanced, so I have no idea what this does, and I hesitate to mess around with a divine weapon. Hem. Jin sat her head on my shoulder, getting my attention. Fine, I guess I'll ask a quest. I paused as something expanded out of Jin. The snow stopped falling, the world around us freezing as Jin landed on her feet. Did you just stop time? Jin looked at me smugly. I am allowed to stop time while you ask your question. How? I couldn't help but blurt out. The amount of power needed to stop time for an entire world. Unless that's not what you're doing. I muttered. No, that's obvious not what you're doing. Even your creators couldn't stop time for the entire planet for an extended period. A little bubble, a pocket of localized time created around us. We are outside of the normal time and space axis for a brief moment. Then you insert us back right at the moment we left. Jin's eyes widened slightly. You are frighteningly knowledgeable. She whispered before her look turned something more predatorily. I look forward to milking you for all your secrets. She waved her hands, the lamp appearing in her hands. Ask your question. The relics, I want to know everything about them. Jin smiled as scenes began to emerge through magical means. Images flashed through the air, showing their creation, the gods who birthed them and passed them down to humanity. 4 relics in total, each representing one of their gifts to mortals. Knowledge, creation, choice, destruction. They weren't just powerful items created by divine hands, they had another purpose. Their creators, these brother gods, they left remnant for who knows where. But when the 4 relics are gathered together, they act as a beacon to summon the gods back, and they will judge humanity. The details on that are vague as they aren't part of the relic's history, but the idea of calling back these gods who so readily abandoned the planet, it didn't sit well with me. I shook my head, compartmentalizing everything I just learned. 4 relics, huh? I looked as the surroundings returned to normal, as we aligned back with the normal flow of time. That's right, and you now possess the relic of knowledge and the relic of destruction. Jin confirmed. I guess since we both know that information, she can speak it openly. I looked down at the sword of destruction. It possesses the ability to destroy anything 3 times every century. Otherwise, it is just a supernaturally good sword, even divine in quality. The idea that it could destroy anything almost made me snort in contempt. I doubt the gods who created it would allow themselves to be destroyed by such a thing. Let me guess, it utilizes the concept of destruction and forces it onto a target, thereby destroying it. Jin paused again. You can even understand the conceptual nature of the relic. Truly, I have no regrets about my decision. I held the sword out in front of me. What do you think, Drake? Pardon. Jin looked at me in confusion. Might as well let me meet her. Right, I almost forgot. I smiled at my new companion, summoning the boosted gear on my hand. She marveled at it, almost hypnotically so. Hello. The gem on the gauntlet lit up, Drake's voice coming through. Hello to you too, Jin said with clear amusement in her voice. I do not know who you are. This is becoming the best day of my existence. I am Drake Gotch, the Red Dragon Emperor, he introduced himself. A dragon? Jin exclaimed in surprise. I take it dragons are rare? I hazard a guess. Jin sighed. Is that a question? She sighed in annoyance. Not directed at me. It was probably frustrating she couldn't speak plainly about certain topics. She huffed, moving closer to me. May I? By all means. I held it out for her to inspect. I wouldn't hold back with my people. She already gave herself to me. If she wanted to look at my stuff, I wouldn't stop her. Fascinating. I can tell this was not created by mortal hands. She spoke without much thought in her words. My free hand slipped down, moving towards her ample rear and giving her but a little squeeze. Her head perked up. She gave me a knowing smile as she adjusted herself to give me a better angle. As much as you both are undoubtedly enjoying this, perhaps we could focus on the important matter at hand, he said dryly. I wanted to argue that I had a very important matter in hand, but he was right. I could molest her, but whenever I wanted, needed to focus on this sword. So, you thinking what I was thinking with this sword? Power of destruction? Yup. I nodded. They work off similar concepts. I can probably use this sword as a catalyst to bring out my bloodline. What is the power of destruction? Jin looked at me expectantly. A bloodline ability of my family. It's similar to the ability of a sword, the power to destroy anything essentially, though it varies on strength depending on the user. I sat down cross-legged on the cold ground, bringing out my enchanting table from Skyrim and placing the sword of destruction on it as Jin quietly sat down across from me, happy to watch what I was going. Aura gave my bloodline a little push, but it isn't enough. I closed my eyes and held out a single finger and focused on that little budding seed I had deep within me. My aura flared as it tried to coalesce on it, to nourish that tiny little speck. I could feel a bit of sweat pouring down my brow as I forced it to materialize. Opening my eyes, there was the tiniest whiff of destruction energy. The blackish energy blowing each way as I focused on reeling in the tiny little manifestation. This is the best I could do. Maybe in a few centuries of trial and effort, it could become usable. I said dryly, though the strain of just maintaining this little thing was visible. I was forcing it out, forcing it to take root. But what if the sword nourishes it? Drake practically voiced my thoughts. I didn't bother with any more words. I held the sword with the boosted gear, and I pushed my power of destruction inside. Using my aura to guide it, the concepts of the two foreign entities began to react. Using the techniques that ScatHack taught me, I began to refine the weapon and my bloodlines into each other while using the enchanting table to help facilitate the process. My eyes shot open as I let out a gasp of breath. My aura was sucked in. My supposedly ridiculous amount of aura was drained in a second, and I felt like I had just been punched in the kidney by a dragon. The sword fell to the table as I clutched my heart. The next few moments were a blur, as I felt like something was forcibly flowing in and out of me, my body trying to cope with the process. When I finally regained my surroundings, I found myself staring up at a familiar blue face. Well, that was unpleasant. I muttered. Was that what happens when your aura gets drained so rapidly? My soul felt like it was gasping for breath. Are you okay? Jin looked down, my head resting in her lap. Yeah, I mumbled, sitting up. That was an interesting experience. You're telling me. I rubbed my eyes. I think I succeeded, but some unforeseen consequences. I looked at the sword of destruction float up next to me with a small smile on my face. With another thought, my aura flared, and it ignited in the familiar destructive energy. The sword is a catalyst, and my aura is acting as a fuel due to how I merged them together. The only issue is that I don't think I'll ever use my power of destruction without the sword. It wasn't going to be much help anytime soon anyways. Well, you're not exactly on a clock. Yeah, I knew what he wanted to say. I have no regrets. The opposite, actually. With a thought, my sword flashed through the air, cutting in every direction, destructive energy cascading off. I was quite happy. I have the power of destruction. FGOO make number 2 Solomon's Temple Epilogue. And that's how I saved the world. We all sat around one of Chaldea's large conference tables. Servants all filed in the room looking around. But most gazes were on me and Meridia. Pardon. Meridia gave me a look. How exactly did you save the world? Well, obviously if it weren't for me, you wouldn't be here. Thus, I will accept everyone's heartfelt thanks. I mean, she may have slapped Goichi around until he started to cry, or turned to horrific rage, but I think I played a much bigger part in this battle. No. Amiya seemed to answer for everyone. He's just jealous. So, this is your wife. Ritsuka spoke up. Yup, it's our 1-year anniversary today. I squeezed her hand. How exactly did you two meet? Da Vinci asked. Because you said she wasn't from Outworld. I'm glad you asked. I love telling the story. Don't you dare. Meridia tried to shush me, but it was inevitable. It all began with a simple boon granted by a goddess. I started to spin my tale. You see, I cleansed a certain temple for said goddess, and she proposed to me, "What do you wish for your reward?" So, I of course looked her dead in the eyes and said, "Be my woman, and the rest is history." Everyone was silent, except for Gilgamesh, who burst out laughing at the end of the table. Good, very good mongrel, exactly how one of my citizens should act. He caught his face with his hand, seemingly lost in his own laughter. Meridia just turned bright red, covering her face with her own hands. So you tricked her into being your wife. Why am I not surprised? Jean hissed. I turned my head toward her, flipping my hand over to retrieve a golden chalice, taking a large drink from it. Pardon, did you say something? She began to twitch violently. Is that a holy grail? Why, I do believe it is, huh? I took another sip of my drink, setting it on the table. Wilhelm, why do you have a holy grail not registered with our systems? Romani, sitting next to Da Vinci, sighed. Yes, Jean, why do I have a holy grail not registered with their systems? My lips curled up, a smirk on my face as I stared at her. She ground her teeth. Because you stole it. Context please? Ritsuka raised his hand. Well, I realized one day that I was missing a centerpiece of my coffee table and thought, hey, wouldn't a holy grail make a wonderful addition to the decor? So I set out onto a grail war. The grinding of Jean's teeth filled the room. I was the ruler for that war, and he comes in and steals it, leave me to clean up the mess. She pointed at me shouting, "You arrogant! Hellspawn! Damn perverted!" conceited. I lifted the grail up again, tuning her out as I took another sip. I looked her right in the eyes as she finished. Spell a single one of those words. There was a moment of silence as my words were processed. "Rayura!" she screamed, trying to leap over the table at me, only for Mashu to try and hold her back. "Lord, give me strength, so I can, MFPHH. Saint Martha grabbed the other saint, covering her mouth as she dragged her away, arms still trying to reach for me.